Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. In a world crowded with messages, advertisements, and temptations, where everyone is fighting for your attention and striving to influence your decisions, how can you distinguish truth from deception? And how do you know when you're being manipulated without realizing it? In this exceptional book, Dr. Robert Cialdini, an expert in social psychology, takes us on a journey into the hidden forces that make people say yes. A journey that begins in stores and sales calls and extends to politics, media, and everyday relationships. But Cialdini doesn't just offer an academic analysis. He reveals through personal experiences and field research the psychological weapons others use to influence us, and how we can recognize them and use them ethically. Influence is not just a book to understand others, but a powerful tool to understand yourself, your decisions, and your inner independence. So, are you ready to uncover the 6 major principles of persuasion? And do you have the courage to open your eyes to the forces that shape you every day without your awareness? Let us begin this journey together, a journey toward awareness and conscious choice in a time when persuasion is growing more intelligent and more invisible.
Preface: Leverage of Influence, Power Tools of the Trades. From the very beginning, Robert Cialdini takes us into a hidden world, a world we don't see yet live in every day, the world of psychological influence. The preface lays the groundwork for understanding how our decisions are shaped without us even noticing, how a single sentence, a gesture, or a small gift can change our minds or push us to make a decision we had just rejected moments before. Cialdini explains that although humans like to believe they are logical in their choices, they often rely on mental shortcuts to save time and effort, especially in a fast-paced, information-saturated world. And this is exactly where influence practitioners step in. The salesperson, the politician, the advertiser, even the people around us. They know how to push the right buttons. Cialdini introduces us to these buttons, or as he calls them, psychological levers, highly effective tools used to get people to say yes, sometimes without even realizing it. To illustrate this idea, he shares an example from the animal world. A study of mother turkeys showed that they feed their chicks only when hearing a specific chirping sound. Even if the sound came from a predator, the sound alone was enough to trigger the maternal response. Cialdini points out that humans too have automatic triggers, different in form but similar in function. After this introduction, the book presents its central question. How can others influence us, and when does influence cross the line into manipulation? To answer that, Cialdini introduces the 6 core principles of persuasion, the foundation of the book. Key to the 6 key principles of influence. 1. Reciprocation. When someone gives you something, you feel a moral obligation to give back. 2. Commitment and consistency. People tend to behave in ways that align with what they have publicly committed to, even if circumstances change. 3. Social proof. When unsure what to do, we look at others and imitate their behavior. 4. Liking. We're more likely to say yes to those we like, those who are similar to us, or those who make us feel comfortable. 5. Authority. We tend to follow figures of authority, even if we're not fully convinced. 6. Scarcity. The rarer or more limited something appears, the more we value and desire it. These principles aren't used in isolation. They're applied in every area of life: advertising, marketing, relationships, media, even in simple requests between friends. But as Cialdini warns, these tools can be used ethically or manipulatively. The difference lies in the intention. Are they being used to provide real value to the other person, or to deceive and exploit their automatic responses? That's why understanding these tools is crucial. Those who understand them can better defend themselves and also use them with integrity and effectiveness.
Principle of influence, reciprocation, the old give and take. Cialdini opens this chapter with a simple yet profound truth. Human beings are indebted to each other for returning favors. When someone does you a favor, even a small one, you feel a strong internal urge to repay it. This is not just social politeness, but a psychological mechanism ingrained in us since childhood, serving a vital social function, maintaining cohesion among individuals. But what makes this principle extremely powerful in persuasion is that it works even when we didn't ask for help in the first place. The famous experiment, the flower and the cola. In a social experiment, a researcher approached people and invited them to an art exhibition. In one case, he returned a few minutes later and gave them a free cola, then asked them to buy raffle tickets from him. In another case, he gave nothing. He just asked them directly to buy. The result was astonishing. The people who received the cola, even though it was inexpensive, bought twice as many tickets as the others. Even those who didn't like the researcher personally felt compelled to return the favor. Analysis. What happened here is what Cialdini calls a disproportionate debt. You receive something small and feel obligated to give something bigger in return. And here lies the danger. The principle of reciprocation can be used to deceive you, because you might find yourself buying something you don't want, or agreeing to a request that doesn't suit you, just to get rid of the sense of obligation. The innocent gifts that aren't so innocent. Cialdini offers many examples of this. The Krishna religious group used to hand out flowers to passers-by at airports for free, then asked for donations. Most people, even though they didn't want the flower, gave money just to avoid the feeling of embarrassment or obligation. In stores, you're offered a free sample to taste, and then asked to buy. And even if you're not entirely convinced, you find yourself saying, "Why not? They gave me something first." The difference between a gift and a psychological bribe. Here, Cialdini distinguishes between genuine giving and manipulative giving. Genuine giving is unconditional, and the intention behind it is pure. Manipulative giving is used as a tool to coerce you into making a specific decision, even if only psychologically. And if you're not aware of this, you will be vulnerable to influence repeatedly without realizing it. Protect yourself. Cialdini doesn't urge us to reject every gift or kind gesture. Instead, he proposes a new psychological awareness. When you recognize that a gift was given with the intention to influence you, you have the right to refuse the associated moral obligation. In other words, don't let your sense of duty be used against you. In summary, reciprocation is a powerful human principle that strengthens cooperation and community. But in the hands of a skilled persuader, it can become a dangerous psychological weapon. The best defense is awareness. Always ask yourself, is this a genuine gift or part of a manipulation? Next time someone offers you a simple favor, remember, it may not be as simple as it seems.
Commitment and consistency, hobgoblins of the mind. Cialdini speaks here about one of the most influential psychological forces on human behavior, the desire to be consistent with ourselves and with what we say or do. This desire drives us to continue down paths we've started, even if they no longer suit us, even if they're wrong. Just because we feel that backing out of a previous decision is a sign of weakness or immaturity, or a lack of internal stability. And here, the influence begins. The experiment. Giant sign in the yard. In a quiet neighborhood, a group of residents was asked to place a very large sign in their yard that read, "Drive carefully." Most people refused because the sign was ugly and distorted the appearance of their homes. But in another group of neighbors, something different happened. 2 weeks before this request, they were only asked to sign a small petition supporting road safety. They signed it, simply because it seemed non-binding. And when the big sign request came later, twice as many of them agreed compared to the other group. Analysis. What happened here is that the small signature created a psychological commitment. And this commitment, although not large, pushed people to behave in ways consistent with their earlier action. Here lies the principle. When we declare a stance or behave a certain way, we begin to build a new psychological identity, and we try to stick to it later. Why is this influence so powerful? Because deep down, humans want to appear consistent, both to themselves and to others. No one likes to appear fickle or indecisive. And here is where the companies, marketers, and influencers start to exploit this principle. The example of gradual sales, foot in the door. Imagine a salesperson who asks you to just listen for 2 minutes about the product. Then, "Do you mind if I show you the catalog?" Then, you said you were interested, didn't you? And in the end, you find yourself buying something you don't need. This method is known as the foot in the door technique, and is based on a simple principle. Get the person to agree to something small, then gradually escalate their commitment until it becomes hard for them to back out. Other examples. In romantic relationships, someone starts with a small compromise and then later finds themselves enduring things they never would have accepted before because they feel they started the relationship and must prove their commitment. In investments, an investor puts in a small amount into a project, then adds more just because they don't want to admit the first decision was a mistake. In politics, religion, or ideologies, once a person declares allegiance to an idea, party, or belief, they begin to see everything from a single perspective, even if facts change, because consistency becomes more important than truth sometimes in the human mind. How do you protect yourself from this mental hobgoblin? Don't be afraid to change your mind, especially when the facts change. Learn that admitting a mistake isn't weakness, it's awareness. And always ask yourself, am I continuing just because I committed, or because what I'm doing is truly still right? In conclusion, the principle of commitment and consistency can make you disciplined and reliable, but it can also make you a prisoner of your old decisions just because you don't want to look shaky to yourself or others. Awareness of this principle gives you freedom, the freedom to reassess, and the freedom not to be a victim of false consistency.
Social proof. When everyone is doing it, then it must be right. This is the core idea Cialdini addresses in this chapter. When we're not sure what we should do, we automatically tend to follow others. People's behavior becomes a mirror in which we see what's right, not because we've thought about it, but because we've seen the numbers. This psychological mechanism is a useful shortcut in many situations. We don't have the time to analyze every decision, but at the same time, it's a wide-open door for influence and even deception. The famous experiment, canned laughter in sitcoms. In a television experiment, episodes of a comedy show were shown to 2 groups of people. one with laugh tracks and one without. Surprisingly, the group that heard the canned laughter laughed more and rated the episodes as funnier, even though the content was exactly the same. Why? Because unconsciously, they relied on others or the artificial laughter to determine whether something was funny. Cialdini calls this social proof, which is simply put, we determine what is correct based on what others are doing. It becomes more influential when we are in situations of uncertainty or ambiguity, lack of prior knowledge, unfamiliar environments. In such situations, we stop thinking and start watching and imitating. Examples from real life. A restaurant full of customers is instantly interpreted as good, even if we haven't tried it. If we see someone looking at the sky, we'll soon join them without knowing why. Online reviews. If a product has thousands of positive ratings, we feel subconscious trust in it, even without reading the details. But this behavior can be dangerous. Sometimes, when people pass by someone injured or in an emergency, they don't help, not because they're cruel, but because they're waiting to see how others react. And if others are frozen, the paralysis spreads like a virus. Cialdini recounts a famous incident of a woman who was attacked in a New York street, and dozens of people were watching from their windows, but no one intervened. Each one was waiting for the other to make the first move. Using social proof in marketing. Phrases like, best-selling product, or join 1 million subscribers. These don't tell you whether the product is good. They push you to believe it is, just because it's popular. On websites, you see notifications like, people are viewing this now, or purchased 10 minutes ago. The goal is to create fake social proof that drives you to imitate. How to protect yourself. Notice when you're relying on others' behavior instead of thinking for yourself. Ask, is this decision based on conviction or just because everyone is doing it? Remember, the crowd can be wrong, especially in situations of fear, haste, or uncertainty. In conclusion, social proof is a powerful tool for survival and learning, but it becomes a mental trap when we follow people unconsciously. The real standard isn't always how many people did it, but rather, does what they are doing make sense to me? Does it suit me? Is it really the best?
Liking, the friendly thief. Cialdini begins this chapter with a simple yet central observation. We tend to agree to requests from people we like. And not just their requests. We may buy from them, vote for them, support their decisions, and overlook their mistakes just because we like them or feel comfortable around them. But where's the danger? The danger is that liking can be manufactured and exploited. And this is where the friendly thief appears. The person who doesn't try to convince you with arguments, but rather with charm, a smile, or a pleasant manner. Why do we fall under the influence of liking so easily? Liking isn't entirely logical. It's a feeling that creeps in through things we often don't consciously notice, like physical attractiveness. Beauty makes people appear more intelligent, ethical, and trustworthy, even though there's no evidence for it. Similarity. When someone resembles us in clothing style, hobbies, or political views, we feel more at ease with them. In one study, sales representatives who mentioned they shared the same hobby or hometown with customers saw a noticeable increase in sales. Flattery. Even if we feel the compliment is exaggerated, part of us wants to believe it and begins to warm up to the person who said it. Positive association. We like the person who is associated in our minds with something pleasant. Someone we always meet in happy moments becomes linked to those feelings, even if they had nothing to do with creating them. Examples from real life. Celebrities in advertisements. They're not product experts, but we like them, so we're influenced. Selling by friends or relatives, like in network marketing schemes.
We don't buy because we believe in the product, but because we like the person selling it. Smiling politicians. Research shows that politicians who smile more or have friendly features receive higher vote percentages even if their platforms are weak. When does liking become a trap? When it makes us shut down our critical thinking. We overlook details, don't ask questions, and justify decisions because we don't want to embarrass or doubt someone we like. And here lies the trick. The friendly thief doesn't come with a villain's mask, but with a gentle smile. How do we protect ourselves? Don't reject liking, but separate it from decision-making. Ask yourself, am I agreeing because the idea is good, or just because I like the person who proposed it? Watch out for flattery and similarity techniques, and ask, is this genuine closeness or clever acting? In the end, liking is a beautiful and human feeling, but it becomes a powerful manipulation tool if we're not aware. Friendliness isn't enough of a reason, and the nice person may, without you realizing it, be leading you somewhere you don't want to go, with a smile.
Authority, directed deference. Cialdini begins this chapter with a profound question. Why do we obey orders from authority figures, even when they seem wrong or dangerous? The answer? Because as humans, we are programmed from childhood to respect authority. Authority gives us a sense of safety, guidance, and the belief that someone knows better. But when this authority is used subtly or falsely, it directs our obedience towards things we wouldn't normally accept, except for that outward appearance of power. The famous Milgram experiment. In one of the most famous experiments in psychology, the researcher Stanley Milgram conducted a stunning study. Participants believed they were helping in a learning experiment. They were instructed to administer electric shocks to another person, an actor, whenever he answered a question incorrectly. With each wrong answer, the voltage increased, and the actor screamed, pleaded, and showed signs of extreme pain, all acted. The real shock? Most participants continued to give shocks up to a lethal level simply because a man in a white coat, a symbol of scientific authority, told them continue. The analysis? What made people obey? The uniform. The white lab coat alone created the impression of authority. Tone of voice. The instructions were calm but firm. The environment, the lab and equipment made the situation feel scientific and trustworthy. The result? Obedience came not from belief, but from an automatic submission to someone who appeared to know better. How is authority used to influence us? Clothing. A man in a suit is treated more seriously than someone in casual clothes, even if they say the exact same thing. Titles. Doctor, engineer, professor. These labels create an impression of expertise, making us accept what is said without scrutiny. Symbols. Police uniforms, stethoscopes, even official logos all trigger a deep urge in us to comply. In marketing, we see an actor playing a doctor recommending a product, and we believe him, even though he's not a real doctor. Ads say, recommended by experts, or used by doctors, though there's no actual proof. Even on social media, accounts labeled expert, coach, or consultant gain quick credibility, even if their content is false. When does authority become a trap? When we give up our critical thinking just because the person seems important. Cialdini points out that we often don't analyze a message's content if it comes from someone with authority. We simply accept it. And that opens the door to manipulation, deception, and even harmful compliance. How do you protect yourself? Separate the person from the message. Is the idea valid, or does it just come from someone who looks powerful? Always ask,
Am I following this because it makes sense, or just because the person has a title or wears a suit? Don't be afraid to question authority figures, request clarification, or politely refuse if something feels wrong. In the end, respect for authority is vital for society, but blind obedience opens the door to danger. True authority isn't imposed by appearance. It's earned through clarity, integrity, and truth. Scarcity. Does less mean more? Cialdini begins this principle with a simple but dangerous psychological truth. The less available something is, the more we want it. Scarcity awakens in us a primal feeling that we're about to miss out on something valuable. As a result, we become less capable of rational thinking and more prone to impulsive buying or rushed decisions. Why does scarcity affect us this way? Because we link scarcity to value. If something is available to everyone, we become skeptical. If it's rare or nearly gone, we assume it's special, even if we weren't interested in it before. This behavior has evolutionary roots. In the environments of our ancestors, what was rare often meant precious or essential for survival. Real-life examples. Shopping websites say, "Only 2 left in stock," or "Offer ends in 2 hours." Long lines in front of a new store. Many people join without knowing what's being sold, simply because the crowd and buzz suggest rarity. A concert ticket or a new phone announced as a limited edition, and sales explode because people fear missing out. The cookie experiment. Cialdini references a classic study. Participants were given 2 jars of the same cookies. One had 10 cookies, the other only 2. The result? People preferred the cookies in the jar with only 2, describing them as more delicious, even though they were identical. Just the appearance of scarcity changed their judgment of taste. How is scarcity used in persuasion in marketing? Time-limited offers. Discounts with phrases like "only a few left" or "last chance messaging." Exclusive to premium members, making the offer sound elite and rare. Influencers also use it cleverly. Exclusive links available for a limited time, or limited edition products that sell out fast, pushing followers to buy immediately. When does scarcity become a trap? When it inspires fear of missing out rather than convincing you of the product's actual quality. Pushes you to make a decision without thinking or comparing options. Gives a false sense that you're getting the deal of a lifetime when it's just a recycled marketing trick. How do you protect yourself? Always ask yourself, do I really want this, or am I just afraid of missing it? Don't let a time timer or the word limited make the decision for you. Pause, reflect, review your options. If a deal is truly worthwhile, it won't vanish in a flash. In conclusion, scarcity is a powerful weapon in the world of persuasion, but something rare isn't always something valuable. True value isn't measured by how many are left. It's measured by how well it fits you and what you actually need.
Unity, the we is the shared me. Cialdini says, you are more likely to comply with requests from someone you consider part of you, someone from the we, not the they. It's not just about liking or authority or mutual exchange. It's the deep emotional sense that we belong together, that we are of the same family, team, or community. When this bond of unity forms, the distinction between self and other fades. It becomes difficult to refuse someone who feels like one of us, not in appearance, but in belonging. What's the difference between liking and unity? Liking means you are inclined towards someone you admire or respect. Unity means you feel that person is an extension of you, that they share your core identity. Example, you might admire a famous doctor,
but you feel true unity with a fellow patient who has gone through the same illness as you. This emotional closeness has a stronger effect. Where does unity show up in real life? Family ties. When someone says, "I'm like you, I'm a parent too," a bond forms instantly. National, religious, or cultural identity. Shared experiences. Someone who has faced the same hardship creates instant resonance. Shared language and inside terms. Speaking in the same code builds an invisible bridge. Cialdini notes that these feelings activate a brain region called the medial prefrontal cortex, which is linked to our sense of self, meaning that the we literally becomes an extension of me. How is unity used to influence us? Brands say, "We're one family with our customers." Politicians use phrases like "our people," "our nation," "our brothers and sisters." Companies build tribes, Apple fans, the Nike community, and so on. Great leaders don't say, "I will do this." They say, "We will do this," pulling people into the decision-making circle. A practical example. In a blood donation campaign, 2 messages were tested. Donate blood, save a life. And donate blood, save a life of someone in your community. The second message performed significantly better because the sense of belonging was activated. How to protect yourself from the misuse of unity. Because this emotional bond is powerful, it can be manipulated cleverly. Organizations or brands pretend to be like you or with you just to gain your trust and compliance. People exploit religion, nationalism, or cultural identity to push agendas that don't actually serve you. Belonging should never be for sale. How to assess someone using this principle? Ask yourself, is this bond genuine or is it manufactured? Does this person really share my concerns, or are they just pretending closeness to take advantage of me? In conclusion, the principle of unity reminds us that influence isn't always about logic. It's about belonging, emotion, and shared identity. When we feel we are together, barriers fall, and yes becomes easier to say. But it also invites reflection. Who are the we I truly belong to? And did I choose them with intention or just out of emotional illusion?
Instant influence, persuasion in an automatic age. In this chapter, Cialdini takes a step back to pose a big question. Why do these 7 principles of persuasion work more powerfully today than ever before? The answer is because we live in an age of speed and automation, an age where there is no time for deep thinking about every decision. So we resort to what Cialdini calls mental shortcuts. These are buttons in our minds we press automatically to arrive at quick decisions. How does our modern brain operate in a primitive way? Despite the development of civilization and technology, our brains still rely on ancient evolutionary mechanisms to make decisions. We don't analyze every marketing offer. We look for cues like, does this seem trustworthy, rare, popular? If someone seems authoritative, we tend to obey. If everyone is doing something, we assume it's the right choice. In truth, we are not choosing, we are drifting. Why is this more dangerous in the digital age? Because the modern world, especially the internet and social media, relies on the same buttons Cialdini described. Every second, we are faced with thousands of marketing messages, ads, calls to buy, and invitations to subscribe or support. And to survive this information overload, we activate principles like, if it's popular equals it's trustworthy. If it's about to run out, buy it now. If it looks like me, listen to it. Here lies the danger. These mental shortcuts were once helpful for survival, but now they are being exploited against us with terrifying digital precision. Does that mean these principles are bad? Not at all. Cialdini says these principles are not the problem.
The issue lies in how they are used. If used with malicious intent or selfish goals, they become tools of manipulation. But if used with clear and honest intent, they are effective tools for communication and ethical persuasion. Illustrative example. Imagine someone offering you a healthy food product, tells you 90% of customers love it, social proof, says it's limited from an organic farm, scarcity, wears a lab coat and shows doctor endorsements, authority, shows images of people who look like you, unity. All of this makes you lean toward purchasing without feeling deceived, because he's simply using the tools of influence to help you decide faster. But if the same tools were used to sell something unhealthy, misleading, or unnecessary, then he would just be exploiting your automaticity for his own gain. What can we do? Awareness is the first weapon. To understand how and why you are being influenced is the first step to escaping blind persuasion. Always ask yourself, am I saying yes because this makes sense, or just because I was pushed by a quick feeling, admiration, fear of missing out, or a sense of similarity? Cialdini's final message: as humans, we cannot live without being influenced, but we can choose how we are influenced, whom we trust, and when to say no. Persuasion in the modern age is not about manipulating people, but about understanding how their minds work and respecting these mechanisms instead of exploiting them.
At the end of our journey with the book Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini, we realize that persuasion is not just an art, it is a precise science based on 7 fundamental psychological principles. From reciprocity, which makes us feel obligated toward those who gave us something, to commitment and consistency, which push us to stick to our previous positions. Then social proof, which drives us to follow the crowd. Liking, which opens hearts. Authority, which tempts obedience. Scarcity, which triggers the fear of missing out. And finally, unity, that deep bond that connects the we to the me. Each of these principles can be a tool for building or a means of exploitation. And the difference does not lie in the tool itself, but in the intention of the one who uses it. In an age of speed and automaticity, where decisions are made in the blink of an eye, our knowledge of these tools becomes a mental shield that protects our choices and makes us more aware and influential, not just easy targets for influence. Understanding influence is the first step toward freedom from manipulation and toward the conscious control of our life's path.
Every great mind starts with a single page, and you've just turned one. If this chapter's moved you, imagine what's coming next. Subscribe, hit the bell, and unlock the next idea. Keep listening, keep growing.